What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm the Vigorous Shooter. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to get this really nice color corrected shot. Before we start with the video, if you're new to the channel, take this time out right now to subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos like this. As we're looking at our log file, this is from Z Camera E2 4K specifically. Before correcting the clip, I had my end goal in mind on how do I want the clip to look ultimately. So that means the final look after I color correct it and color grade it, how is it all going to be cohesive with each other? I started my workflow with my primaries. So if I turn on my primaries, here's exactly what I did for the shot. I didn't do too much. All I did was I went to the color wheels. I brought down the wheels just a little bit on the shadows, which is the lift wheel. I brought it down to -0.2 and I just bumped the contrast up just a little bit, nothing too crazy. And with the saturation, I bumped the saturation a little bit more too. Here, as you can see with my waveform, everything is still pretty there, like with before and after. So nothing too crazy, but this is how I'm going to set myself up for the upcoming techniques. Second, I attacked my white balance on the second node, and here's how that looks. Very subtle. Let me bring this to 100%. It just added a little bit more magenta to the skin tones, and knowing the fact that I'm around greens, there's going to be a lot of green cast into the shot. So by balancing it off with a little bit of magenta would clean it up a little bit more. Literally, that's all I did in this node. My third node, which I call it the Lumi curve. So all I did with that was I went to my curves and I only adjusted my illumination curve. I bumped down the darks, especially for back there and then the bra or the sports bra. And in the midtones, I bumped up the midtones just a little bit to where the skin and the face pops out a little bit. And then the highlights, I just softened the highlights down a little bit more. I mean, look at the waveform. We still have a lot more to work with. And the reason why I'm not going as aggressive on the contrast is because I want to set myself up and I don't want to blow my load too fast, if that makes sense. And if you see a before and after with that, that's how it's looking. Now, next node, this is where I add my contrast. This is my contrast node. This is where you're going to get all the darks and you're actually starting to see some movement in the waveforms now. And what I did was I went into the contrast tab and I bumped it up by a lot. And then on the curves now, that's where I went a little more aggressive. I basically took my dark point and then just kind of nudged it in a little bit more just to get some dark action going on into the shot. As you can see with before and after, just gives it a little bit more pop. My next node is the skin node. Throughout this whole color correcting, I did not once qualify anything. Everything was just straight on pinpointing and sampling. You don't have to go too hard to get the shot to look pleasing. Just use simple fundamental techniques. You can get your shot to look beautiful by not doing too much. So with the skin node, turning it on, before and after. Okay, so here's how I achieved and corrected the skin tone. Keeping in mind that the model has yellow undertones and the fact that we are around greenery, just basic knowledge will tell you that there are yellows and greens. So if the sun is shining pretty bright, that means some of that green and yellow is going to spill onto your subject. Knowing that, that would make my model with a yellow undertone, that would make her more yellow. So what I did was to correct that, I went into my curves and I went into my U. You know, I basically sampled where her skin tone was and it lied right between those that point right there. And that's telling me this is all her skin tone. And all I did was nudge it up just a little bit. Let me undo it so you can see the difference. Boom. See right here, and then I just brought it back, literally, before and after. All I did was bring more reds into her skin tone by changing the hue of her skin tone. Very basic principles here. You just have to put yourself in a position to where you're thinking on that level, and it's literally ABCs and not trying to do too much. And secondly, what I did was I went into my hue versus illumination curve, and what I did, I brought it down some. And if you see it before, she was looking brighter. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted something that was soft and pleasing, so I knocked it down a bit just to bring her true tone and character out. That is all I did for the skin tone, and that's all I corrected. Next, to pop out the skin tone, I attacked the environment, which is green. And if you see, I brought the greens up, and how I corrected the greens was I went to my curves again, and I went to hue versus hue. I basically sampled all the green areas and the yellow areas in the shot, and those were the points that it gave me, and I started to bring them down a little bit. So if you see before, it was orange, yellowish, and as you know, bring them back, brought that green out, and that immediately helps her pop off the background that much cleaner. You know, so now you can see some separation, and it's all starting to make sense to your eyes. Last but not least, very, very simple, right? I did an overall curve for the whole shot. Let me turn that on. And that's where I brought everything together, and I packaged everything together there. As you could see with the waveforms now, my shadows and my darks are starting to hit a little bit, and I gradually got there. I didn't start off there, I gradually arrived there. And what I used to do that is I went to my illumination curve, and all I did was knock down the shadows some, and raised the tail of the darks to bring in some type of vintage, moody feel to it. And that was that, you know, and that's how I accomplished that look. It was super simple. So if we look at a before and after for all of them, from coming from here to there, that's a very big difference. I did not use any advanced tools. All it was fundamentals and, you know, common sense. A lot of it is common sense. If you have good color knowledge of how things are supposed to look, or have an idea of how you want them to look, all you have to do is go ahead and attack it. We didn't qualify anything. We didn't do anything extra. We went straight to the source and corrected it. This is how you get a detailed log footage and make it pop into something that is commercial ready, by not doing too much. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hit that thumbs up. And if you guys have any questions on what happened here, leave it down in the comments. I'll gladly get back to you and message it out and hash it out with you there. And once again, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel so you can see more content like this. And thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys on my next one. Deuces.